You know, I'm always hearing about the evangelism activity going on in campuses and such. And it's exciting because there's, something good's going on because you got the other headlines. It's always ghastly. The world's going to hell and Islam jihadists are shooting Jews everywhere. Candace Owens is on another rant and beaten up on Turning Point. And so you want to hear the good news? Well, the good news is this. Let me fix my phone for a second. I got a guy in here today who's giving me the facts about evangelism, the facts about the number of young people that are getting saved and the power of God that's moving in America. I want you to hear about it because hundreds of thousands, even millions of young people are going to the internet, and we're finally we're dropping the net over to catch the fish, and they're coming in. And today, this week, this month especially, I want you to get a hold of next level spiritual warfare, because part of the battle is we're not losing, we are winning, but the news doesn't get, podcasters don't make money telling you about what's working, right? So you got to hear what God's doing in the youth and in evangelism. And I want you to get the facts today. Also, call 800-910-6349 to get next level warfare. Why am I holding this up? Because the warfare is hitting us in relationships, hitting us in our mind, hitting us in a political level. You need to know God has a strategy for how to war a good warfare. You know what a good warfare is? It's when you win and you maintain your sanity and you stay happy. Happy warriors. That's what we want. Want you to call 800-910-6349. How much is it, Brother Wallnau? Whatever you want to pay. How's that for a deal? Your gift of any amount. Go to lancewallnau.com/next level and get today's free offer and watch today's cool broadcast on what's working in the world of evangelism, and America shall be saved. Watch this. Welcome back to the Lance Wallnau Show. I try to always make this different. I don't want to ever become predictable in the sense of, well, he's just going to talk about the news. So every now and then we mix it up. We have a Bible study. We have an anti-Semitism moment in Israel or whatever, current events, prophetic trends, whatever. But today I wanted to bring you a special experience because you know what? I still wrestle with the thought of eternity. I wrestle with it because during the Christmas period of time, we had this weird juxtaposition. If you're looking at the news cycle, people at a Hanukkah gathering gunned down. You're already going to hear about Rob Reiner, Hollywood celebrity. He makes movies against me, but gets killed in the middle of the night by his son, who is having an argument with him. And when you hear these stories, if you're a Christian, you think, you know what? The only thing that really matters is where you're going to spend eternity. What you do in life counts. You're judged and rewarded as a Christian based on what you do in life. But eternity, and doesn't it bother you sometimes that we're not doing enough evangelism? I feel it gnawing at me when I'm traveling and I realize that I'm an introvert, so I energize, strangely enough, even though I do media. If I got downtime, I want to read or focus or get my head around something. But then I'm aware of somebody sitting next to me who wants to talk, and I always feel convicted that I should engage them because I should be an evangelist or I should be aware of evangelism. Well, I got a guest today who's an expert at explaining what's happening with the biggest harvest we have, which is Gen Z and younger. I don't even know what the younger next generation is. Is it Gen X?
Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha? All right, Sean Dunn. I've already introduced him here, but Sean Dunn's the founder and president of Groundwire. He's an answer to my conundrum. I'm thinking about eternity. I want to reach people for Jesus. I'm not sure how I can do more, but he reaches millions, people, millions, through media platforms like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And I'll bet you don't even know that he's the wizard behind the curtain that's making a lot of this happen. So, Sean, can you share with us what Groundwire is and how in the world you ever got this thing started?
Absolutely. Love to. And I just want to encourage you and everybody. God is moving right now in an amazing way. And we see it in the numbers, but we're seeing it in culture. The last year, there's been movement. Before that, the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, the millennials were moving away, and now they're starting to move towards. And but the key is we have to go towards them. So my background is I was standing on stages. I was loving the pride, hey, would you sign my book? You changed my life. And I said the right things because we as preachers always do. Well, thank you, but give God the glory. But inside I was owning that. During that season, I was actually praying a prayer I didn't want God to answer. I was actually saying, God, help me reach more people than I ever thought possible, but do it in a way that I'm not the face of it and I can't take responsibility for it. I didn't want God to answer that because I liked being the face of it.
Sure.
But God is now kind of opened that up. So right now what we're doing is, and we've been doing it very successfully for years, is we invade their device. The addiction of the day is the phone.
Yes.
7 hours, 22 minutes a day, they're staring at that phone. And so we figured out how to sneak in, kind of poke at what they're going through. We don't approach them and say, would you like to have a theological discussion with me because you're going to hell?
Not the best evangelism approach.
Although some people, that's what we think still works. What we do is we say, hey, life's hard. Life's hard, man. It's been a difficult couple of years. How you dealing with that? By the way, Jesus wants to walk with you through it. Why don't you come talk to us about it? And we are seeing literally, not figuratively, but literally, we are seeing tens of thousands of people a day that aren't just coming to the websites, but they're literally saying, man, I need a relationship with Jesus, and we have the opportunity to pray with them.
All right, so you're using digital media to reach Gen Z. And but you've got a 5-step process. Go ahead and lay it out for us, because I'm not sure I could tell my audience what it is.
So the first thing we do is we interrupt. We don't invite. I built a ministry around invitation where I was saying, hey, if you come into my church, you show up at that concert, I will share the gospel with you. But I realized that heathens don't go to Christian events. So I was an evangelist speaking to people who agree with me. And I got to the place where I was saying, we can't invite them because they can say no, but we can interrupt them. We know that faith comes by hearing. We know every time we drop the name of Jesus that we win. And so we started to do that, and we do it. We interrupt on TikTok, we interrupt on Instagram in the gaming space, where we show up and we just say, hey, life's hard. We connect with them with quality content that just grabs their emotions, and then we suggest Jesus is the answer. And then we invite them into a conversation. So we interrupt them. Second thing we do is we communicate the gospel. We bring them to a website. Websites like ifeelbroken.com. What's the point?
Oh, wow.
Do I matter? Jesus cares. Godlikes.you.com. We have about 18 URLs that we use. And it's really because those different URLs help us reach different audiences. But we interrupt them on those devices, bring them to the website where we communicate the gospel. But the key is that we offer them a conversation. In 2018, they did a study with high schoolers, said, how many minutes a day do you feel listened to? The average young person said 7 minutes a day. And now they come to the website because they can't believe somebody's actually going to engage with them. We have volunteers all over the world that are just engaging with them. And then the fourth one is we educate them how to begin those steps. How do you begin to grow? And then fifth one is we try and plug them into a community.
Oh, all right. So you experimented with the first site. Which was the first one you did?
JesusCares.com.
Okay, cool. So JesusCares.com, and people went there looking for, like, really?
Yeah.
How do I know? And just curious. Yeah. Well, what do they run into when they go there?
Well, when they run in, when they hit the website, it's basically it's a website that empathizes, connects with them. What we teach our volunteers is four words, which is an acronym, LETS. We listen, we empathize, we transition, and share. If you don't transition, if you don't listen and empathize, you don't get to transition, you don't get to share Jesus. So when they get there, basically we acknowledge life is hard. You're going through whatever you're going through, depression, anxiety, Gen Z, 46%.
Now this is it. Let me just slow down for a second, because pardon me for my baby boomer brain, but that's my audience. So if I want to evangelize on my plane, and I've gone through all the evangelism training programs, et cetera, but you're talking about a different approach, particularly with young people, which is rather than, like the diagnostic questions James Kennedy said, about going to heaven and why would you get into heaven. In your case, you're listening, you're empathizing. Then this third step seems to me to be the magic there. Transitioning. That's when you've established rapport. And you can then, you sound credible and trusted, not like a salesman, and you can lead to focusing on a spiritual aspect. So how do you, give me a transition line.
So I was having a meal with a friend, and the server introduced himself, and we started the conversation. And got to the place where it was pretty clear that his grandfather, who he had a tattoo to represent his grandfather, he said, my grandfather taught me what it was like to raise a family, what it was like to be a man. And he said, I have 4 income streams so I can take care of my family. Right there, hits in my brain. He's not thinking about eternity. He's thinking about legacy. He wants to take care of his family. I said, I get the impression you want to make a difference in the world. He said, I absolutely do. I said, well, how does God play into that? There's the transition. So you acknowledge that he's thinking about something. He's thinking about legacy,
right?
Even though he's 29 years old.
Wow.
And I said, where does God play into that? That's the transition. Again, the best evangelists aren't the people who talk the smoothest. They're the people who ask the best questions, because people will reveal to you where you can speak Jesus into that. And so he kind of revealed where he was going. So I said, where does God play? And it was fascinating, Lance. What he said to me was, he said, you know, it's interesting you say that, because 7 years ago, my first child was born. And in the birthing room, he said, I had an epiphany. There has to be more. There has to be something bigger. There has to be purpose. He said, 7 years ago, I decided I was going to go out and I was going to figure out who God was and what he expected of my life. But then he said this. He said, but I've never been to church and I've never picked up a Bible. Which, if you want to know the younger generations, there it is right there. I mean, our generation, if we had somebody that we were sitting next to when we were 20 who said, I got to know who God is and what he expects in my life, where are they going to go? They're going to go to the Bible. They're going to go to church. He didn't. He said, I've been going online trying to find answers. I've been asking ChatGPT. I've been trying to find somebody online to talk with. Well, it just so happened I walked into his restaurant and was able to connect the dots for him, because here's the transition. I said, you want to make a difference, but you need to know that the God who you believe in created you. He knows what's inside of you. He wants to bring the best out of you. He knows the best outcomes for your life where you can make the most difference. And I said, but you need to know how to walk with him and what he's thinking. So I was able to transition and then share the gospel with him, and he gave his life to Christ that night. But that is so common. So many young people have questions, but they don't know where to find the answers to them. That's when we transition.
Wow, that's intense. The best evangelists aren't the ones with the best eloquence, but they're the ones that ask the best questions. Mm-hmm. That's a great quote right there. So you mentioned your coaches. I only got 100. A minute left in this segment. I want to hold you over, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Right. But you said you have online coaches. I don't get that. You tell your coaches. So tell me the role of live people in this process.
Yeah, so we have about a team of about 1,700 volunteers trained all over the world that are available 24/7 to engage with people. So somebody sees a piece of content. The pitch is, when life hurts, Jesus cares. Chat with somebody who understands. It's not, when life hurts, Jesus cares, come read my opinion or come watch my sermon. They want to have a conversation. So our people are there ready to engage with them and actually introduce them to Jesus.
Wow. So it's live chat thread option on the website?
It is. Yep.
Man. What trends are you seeing in the spiritual and emotional lives of millennials and Gen Z right now that the church would benefit by understanding?
I really believe that if you want to talk to somebody about Christ in the younger generations, you meet them first in their crisis. Crisis opens the door to talk to them about Christ. I think the perspective that, you know, they walk in and they think, you can't relate to me because you look polished, you look perfect, your mask is right. I think just acknowledging there's brokenness in the world is beginning to, the church is starting to acknowledge that and walk in that. And so, but I think that that's the right doorway. If you talk to them about their crisis, it opens the door for you to talk to them about Christ.
Wow. I love that. All right. When we come back, I've got to ask you for some stories that capture the impact of Groundwire. I mean, I'm sure you have them with all the people you're impacting. So I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it, some stories, and we'll be right back after this brief interruption. Who said you're supposed to be comfortable with your capacity? God didn't say, are you comfortable? He's actually there as the comforter. Why do you think the Holy Ghost is called the comforter? Because of how uncomfortable you're going to get when you start flowing in that which God has for you.
Lance Wallnau has spent decades teaching believers how to recognize spiritual battles most people never see. Because some resistance doesn't come from what you did wrong. It comes from what was never dealt with. patterns that repeat and struggles that feel heavier than they should be, pressure that seems to come from nowhere. Next Level Spiritual Warfare confronts the unseen forces that operate through bloodlines, agreements, and spiritual doors, and shows you how to shut them down.
Next Level Spiritual Warfare. The spiritual warfare that's going to be in your own mind saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, how am I going to do it? Because we're going up, we're going to deal with another level. Hear more accurately, and God will add more and more revelation to plunder your strong man's house.
This teaching was created to help you recognize what you're really fighting and to activate the spiritual authority to break it. You can receive the full message from Lance Wallnau today for your generous gift of any amount at lancewallnau.com/next level or by calling 800-910-6349. Take the next step in shutting down resistance and stepping fully into what God has prepared for you.
Sean Dunn is reaching the generation you're praying about. You've been praying, I've been praying, oh God, for these young people, we see them. They get recruited into causes on campuses. The under 30 voter is the trauma center for so many of us because we're watching them look for socialism. They were educated wrongly. While we slept, the secular world took the minds of our kids and warped them, and now we're trying to recover ground, praying for them. But Sean has a strategy. He goes into the digital world where they spend all their time, and he works his way into their psyche and invites them for a conversation. And I asked him before we took this break, give me some stories of breakthrough, but I don't really know that we've established the extent to which the numbers tell a story. So the first story is, give us some numbers, and what's the story the numbers say?
Well, first of all, I just want to highlight what you just said, which is if we as a country want to see people move towards morality, towards conservatism, the best way, maybe the only way to do that is you can't legislate it as much as you can change a heart. More people living under the lordship and leadership of Jesus changes culture. And so that's what we're excited about is it seems to be shifting in the last couple of years. And I believe it's because God's on the move in a dramatic way. But yeah, what God's doing with Groundwire is it's crazy. It's so unbelievable that I had somebody look at me and say, I don't believe you. He said, your numbers are too good. He said, don't come back and talk to me till you get your numbers validated. But if you get them validated, please come back and talk to me. So we did research. There's one company that foundations use to make sure that nonprofits aren't fudging the truth, which is sad that there's actually an industry out there for that. Yeah. But so we have that done, and I can provide that if you or anyone else is interested. But so the numbers I'm going to share with you are mind blowing. They're video game numbers, but our commercials last year were seen just under 1 billion times. They were seen 982 million times, which led to just over 6 million people visiting one of our websites, which led us to 1,005,601 people giving their life to Christ last year. Just to kind of frame that, George Barna says the average church in the United States sees one person a year come to Christ. Okay, so that was last year. This year, we're on track to double that. We will, by the end of December, unless something breaks radically, we'll top 2 million professions of faith for the calendar year. And I'll give you one other number that just kind of frames this. Churches and denominations have told me that it costs them over $35,000 domestically to see one person give their life to Christ. Last year, our all-in cost was $4.08 for everything we do. And so it shows that God's moving, the hunger's real, and the message is on point, that people are willing to log in. Now, I do want to make sure that I'm clear that 60% of our outreach is in the U.S., 40% is international, but still, those are pretty solid numbers.
60% USA, 40% international. What countries are the hottest responders outside of the U.S.?
Our Spanish team is doing a wonderful job, and so in South Central America is pretty strong. We've been invited over by some ministries in the UK that want to take our follow-up, and so we're doing the evangelism. They're going to do the follow-up, and we also are doing some stuff in partnership with some ministries in Kenya that are disciple makers, and in India. And
all right, so now, stories that come out of nowhere. I bet you hit some desperate people that are like suicidal and like taking a last Hail Mary at something.
One of my favorite stories is Bev, and she was our online volunteer, and Naomi. I was actually flying into California, and I'm reading this chat on the plane, and it almost brought me to tears because it was so authentic and so touching. Naomi logs in, and she just simply says, she said, hey, I saw this commercial that said, when life hurts, Jesus cares. Is it true? Because it doesn't seem like he cares about me, which is just a heart cry for so many young people. And so she's instantly connected to Bev, and Bev says, yes, he absolutely cares about you. Cares about everything you're going through. Naomi wouldn't open up much. So Bev just said, hey, would it be okay with you if I shared part of my story? And so Bev started to share her story. When I was growing up, I was struggling with anxiety, depression. She said, I was suicidal, almost took my life. But she said, I met Jesus, and he took away all my fear, and he just changed my life. Goes through, Naomi says, yes, please share with me what that's like. Shared the gospel. Naomi gives her life to Christ. And Bev just said at the end of the conversation, she said, Naomi, this has meant the world to me. It's Saturday. This is my favorite part of my day, was talking to you about Jesus. And Naomi said, well, you don't know what this has meant to me. She said, I was done. Today was my day. I'm sitting next to 162 pills. The note is written. And I told the universe, if I don't find hope today, I'm done. And she ends up saying to Bev, you saved my life. And Bev comes online and she said, oh, honey, she's kind of an oh, honey grandma. She's just so sweet. And she says, oh, honey, she said, go dump those pills. Go flush them right now. I'll wait. So then she comes back and they talk, and she's a cutter. So she has a blade hidden in the back of her phone case where she's cutting herself to cause herself pain. We could talk about that another time. But anyway, Bev talks her into getting rid of that where she can't go get it. And so they hang up. I'm flying into Orange County as I'm reading this, and I realize Bev lives. I've never met her. She's a volunteer, but I never met her, and she lives 15 minutes from where I am, and I just had my lunch appointment canceled. So I go to see her, and I walk in, and she gives me a hug, and she says, you don't know what Groundwire's meant to me. She said, my mom has dementia. My husband has Parkinson's. She said, I'm a shut-in. I get out of the house 3 hours a week, but my favorite part of the day is when I get to talk to people about Jesus after everybody else is asleep. And I said, before I leave, Bev, two things. I want to see a picture. Number two, I said, I want to see where you do your chat. So she takes me into her office. She has a long wicker basket with 5x7 cards of every chat she'd had in the last 18 months. I'm flipping through them. I'm reading prayer requests, and have we connected them to a church and all these things. And Bev just hands me Naomi's. We were just talking about Naomi's chat.
Right.
And so I look at it and I said, Bev, why is this one different? The others aren't rubber banded. I said, this one's rubber banded to a big stack. And she was almost embarrassed, incredibly shy. She just looked at the ground awkwardly and said, those are the ones the Lord's allowed me to introduce to him so far. And I said, Bev, how many? She said, so far, 88.
Wow.
And so, I mean, that's one of my favorite stories, because when we started this, I thought about Naomi. I never thought about Bev. People who are sitting there saying, I love Jesus so much, and I want to talk to people about him, but I don't know how to start the conversation. What our marketing does is we get their attention. We bring them to you where they're asking questions like, does he really care about me? Do I matter?
Right.
And we all love to answer those questions.
Wow. How many do you have now working for you that are doing this?
They're volunteers. We have a massive team, about 1,700 volunteers that are.
Well, you know, you put something like that out on my broadcast, I guarantee there's people right now, because I can hear them in my head going, wow, what do I do? I want to do that because I've got them.
Yeah.
So how do they get in touch with you to do this?
If you go to groundwire.net and go into the Get Involved section, there's a place there where you can explore that, becoming an online volunteer. And it is a great community of people who love Jesus and just want to authentically share. We will train you. We will teach you everything you need to know. And we will bring you a mentor in this process. But yeah, that's one of our greatest needs as we go from 2 million professionals of faith this year to 4 million next year. We need more online volunteers.
And you gotta listen. 40% of you is international. You need them to be bilingual.
Well, we just have an English team and a Spanish team.
Okay.
And so we're only in those two languages right now.
All right, so the Mandarin's gonna have to wait.
It is. We
need you to get to China, brother.
I know. Well,
Trump needs you to get to China.
Would you like a job? You wanna lead that?
I don't
team
do Mandarin. I should have. I should know it if I'd been taught to my earlier me 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and say, give yourself advice. I'd say, invest in Google and learn Mandarin and Spanish.
Yep.
What a place that would be. All right, what advice would you give? Let me ask you, what's the big challenges you're facing right now in the digital space? Is Europe open? I mean, is there restrictions?
It is. It's actually easier for us broadcasting into the European countries than if we were an established organization in Europe. We have less restriction.
Wow.
So we can buy in, well, we can buy probably 80-90% of the countries in the world. And so we fight with TikTok regularly. They will come in and say that piece of content is hostile towards other religions, so they'll take it down. But we keep finding God has been so gracious. We are, one of our core values is spirit dependent. We have to have His help to figure out how do we get around the punches that they're
gatekeepers.
throwing. But God has been good, and we keep winning.
TikTok should be really. I mean, my millennials here are all TikTokers. It's nutty. I mean, they give me TikTok like it's a credible news source. I go, did you get this on TikTok? Yeah.
Well, do you know how many TikTok videos the average 17-year-old watches a day? The specific videos?
Tell me.
What's your guess?
5?
300. The average 17-year-old watches 300 TikTok videos a day. The average person who has TikTok open on their phone has it. They open the app. I think it's 20 times a day, which means if they sleep 8 hours, that means that they're opening the app every 1.5 times an hour.
This is addiction.
It is a huge addiction.
This is addiction.
It is.
All right, so final thought. But the biggest challenge you face is what? Funds? Just money for the operate? Feed the machine?
I wouldn't say it's a challenge. It's an opportunity. There's an urgency. Jesus said, open your eyes, look at the fields. They're ripe for harvest right now. And I can prove that. People are more open to the gospel right now than they've ever been. And we don't want to leave any fruit on the vine. Scripture says in Jude verse 23, it says, snatch them from the fire and save them.
Yeah.
That's a visual. So there's an urgency, but there's an opportunity.
Yeah. All right, Sean, totally unselfish moment here. I don't care about me being involved. I just want to see you succeed. So how do people support you? How can they help you?
Yeah, if you go to the website, it has all of groundwire.net.
Groundwire.net. All of you need to go to groundwire.net. And listen, I mean, I know it sounds crass, but when you got $35,000 per person who gets snagged into church and answers an altar call versus $4 per person that gets reached in the digital anonymous safe space of TikTok and YouTube, but they get saved. Folks, $4 compared to $35,000 for a result. I mean, listen, your $10 a month or $20 a month is actually translating into souls getting saved in this organization. So, groundwire.net. We've got 10 seconds left. Final thoughts, my friend. What would you tell the people?
Man, fall in love with Jesus. Stay as close to him as you can. Don't try and do anything without him, and be obedient.
Great words from a great man, Sean Dunn. Make sure you all follow up with Groundwire. This is exciting. We'll have him back giving us, maybe we'll walk through next time what an online experience looks like, and maybe we'll be able to actually experience some of that ourselves. We'll be back again tomorrow with another Lance Wallnau Show. Don't miss it. Bye-bye.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because